Hello there. In this video I'm going to show you how you can make a spiral bracelet with a hexagonal, in other words a six-sided cross-section, and we're going to personalize it by putting the initials P and S at the end of each end of the spiral. So how do we do that? Well, first of all we're going to use an object, a curve, and we're going to use a spiral curve. Now I want to change this particular spiral, and you can see the dimensions at the moment are quite small, 2mm by 2mm. Now the way to change this is to press the T key on the keyboard to open up the toolbox panel, and in the toolbox panel there are some parameters here which we can change. Now I want to create a bracelet with an internal diameter of 65mm. Well, half of 65mm is 32.5 as the radius. So if I just scroll the center mouse button, you can see where my spiral's gone now, and you can see my dimensions here as 65mm. Well, that's okay at the moment. The internal diameter is 65mm, but I'm going to put a thickness on this object. I'm going to put a thickness of 6mm eventually. So I need to change my radius from 32.5, which is what it is at the moment, and I want to add on half of 6, which is 3. So if my thickness is going to be 6, I want to add on half of that. So instead of 32.5, which gives me 65mm, I need to add on another 3, so I end up at 35.5. That will maintain my internal diameter of 65mm. Now if we look at this object, you can see at the moment it's a little bit not circular. It's got some lines here. In fact, it's got 24 lines, and if I reduce the steps right down, you can see what's happening. The number of steps here are the number of sections around this object. Now I want a circular bracelet rather than an octagonal, an 8-sided bracelet as it is there at the moment, but if you wanted that shape you could just change the steps down to say 8. I want a rounded one, so I'm going to set this at about 180. That gives me a nice smoother shape, a rounded shape. Now this spiral at the moment isn't offset in any way, and I can offset it by changing the height here, and if I hold down the left mouse button and just drag it to the right, you can see the spiral opening up. And what I want is, I want a value in here of about 10, so I'm going to type in 10. So that gives me a gap here. Now remember, I'm going to put a thickness of 6 on at the top and a thickness of 6 on at the bottom, but I am actually also going to thicken it up a bit as well. So you need more than the thickness of the object here if you want a gap, if you don't want it overlapping, which I don't. So I can close that toolbox down now. Now I want to wrap around this object a hexagonal, a 6-sided cross-section. Well, there are plenty of built-in cross-sections in Fluid Designer for you, and they're in the 3D Templates Masters folder. The objects I'm going to use are the objects in this file here, this hexagonal cross-section. We could have done octagonal, we could have done circular cross-sections, but I'm going to do a hexagonal cross-section. So I want to append to my current file the objects that are in this file here, and we do that by going to File and Append, and if you just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder, look for Groups here. These are all the patterns and folders that are on your system, and I want 3D Templates Masters, and I'm going to use the hexagonal cross sections. And we always append objects in Fluid Designer, so I want to append all of these objects here, so I press A on the keyboard, and if I hold down the Shift key and deselect the first one, that's not actually a cross section, so I don't need to worry about that. So I just append those cross sections from that library, and they will all now appear in my outliner panel. And if I click on the spiral again in the properties panel, because this spiral is a curve, I can go to curve here, and if I go to the bevel object, here are my cross sections. So I can apply a cross section, 2 millimeters diameter, 3 millimeters, 4. I want the one that's 6 millimeter cross section. So there's my hexagonal cross section. Now notice at the end it's empty at the moment, so we do need to fill that in. So we just fill in the two ends. So there's my basic spiral bracelet with a hexagonal cross section. Now what I need to do now is I'm actually going to modify this side of the bracelet, and I'm going to thicken it up on the ends of the bracelet before I put on the letters P and S, the initials of my name. And because I'm going to thicken it up, I do need to offset slightly this end of the bracelet away from the center, because when I thicken it up I'll end up reducing my 65 millimeter diameter, and I don't really want to do that. So how do I go about doing that? Well, first of all I press the tab key to go into edit mode, and if I just press the circle key on the keyboard, and I'm just going to select the last two control points at the end of each side of the spiral there, and I'm going to want to offset these slightly to the right. Now before I offset them to the right, I want to switch on proportional editing. So if I press the O key on the keyboard for proportional editing, as I move these to the right, now you can see something is not working terribly well there. First of all, it's jumping by quite a bigger margin, and it's also not moving the other points here. So what I need to do is, as I move to the right, I need to scroll the center mouse button. Now you can see the proportional editing circle, but that's moving more than I want. So what I could do is I could switch off the snap just for the moment, and then try and move it to the right, and you can see there we are. And I'm just going to offset it slightly to the right there. Okay, so we've not got a circle anymore, but when we apply some thickness back to this object, our circle will be back again. So we've just offset it slightly. Now I can press the A key on the keyboard to deselect those two control points, and the tab key to return to editing mode. Sorry, return from editing mode to normal mode. Now what I need to do is to convert this object into a mesh. And I can do that on the menu bar here by going to Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. And if I just go to View and Top View now what I'm going to do is I want to thicken up this part of the object slightly using proportional editing again, which should still be switched on. So what we do is we go into edit mode with the tab key. I'll just zoom in slightly, and I'm going to press the C key on the keyboard for circle select, and I'm just going to select about that much, so it's about 1 centimeter on each end, and then press the escape key to cancel the circle select. Now to thicken this up, well, if I press S on the keyboard, that will scale the object. I don't want to scale it, I want to thicken it up. So what we do is we hold down the Alt key and press S. And you can see my proportional editing circle has appeared there. Now, as I move my mouse slowly to the right, you can see that my object is thickening up, and you can see the effect of the proportional editing. It's not just changing the part of the spiral that I've highlighted, it's changing proportionally inside the circle. So I just want to move that slightly there to the right, just to thicken it up, and then I'll click with my left mouse button, and I just want to check that that's not touching. It is touching, I thought that was the case. Let's just view it from the top again. Let's just do Control and Z to undo that, and if I press Alt and S again to thicken it up, let me see if I can just move it a little bit less. I want to thicken it up, but I don't want it to overlap. So I've clicked. Yeah, there it is. It's not overlapping now. So I've just thickened up the ends just to give it that profile. So I can now come out of edit mode there. Sorry, no, I don't want to come out of edit mode. I just want to deselect those highlighted vertices. Now you can see what's happened here is the end caps have come off as we've done that. So what we need to do is to replace those. So if I press C key on the keyboard and I'm just scrolling the center mouse button to reduce the size of that circle, I can highlight those vertices there, and I can just about highlight those there as well. And if I press the escape key to cancel the circle select, and can now press X on the keyboard and delete those vertices. So that's got rid of those there, and we now need to fill in the ends of these of the bracelet. So I'm going to click the right mouse button and change to edge select mode, and if I hold down the Alt key and click on that edge there, it will highlight all of the edge around the end of the bracelet, and I can press F to fill it in, and I can press A on the keyboard to deselect that. And again, if I hold down the Alt key and click on that edge and press F on the keyboard, that will fill in that end as well there. So we filled in the two ends. Okay, so we can now come out of edit mode, and what I want to do now is to add in my initials. So if I just go to view and top, now it depends what fonts you've got on your system, but I'm actually going to use a Harrington font. So my initials are P and S, so I'm going to append the letters P and S from the Harrington font library into this document here. So if I go to File and Append, just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder. I'm going to use the Harrington font, and I want the letter P first of all, and we always append the object. So it's the Harrington font P object that I append from the library. And if I just click on that now to ensure it's highlighted, now you can see that that's going to be too big to go on the end of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and scale it down by half and see whether or not that works. So if I press S on the keyboard, and if I type 0.5 and then enter, that will scale it down. Now in Fluid Designer, whenever you scale a curve object, you must always do Control A and apply the scale, and that will reapply the thickness there. Okay, so we can drag this across to the right now, and let me just move that out of the way. So what do I need to do? Well, there's the x-axis. So if I press R on the keyboard and rotate it about the x, so I press R and X and then 90, that will rotate it 90 degrees. Now you can see that this object's still a little bit too big for that end face there, so I'm going to scale it again. So S on the keyboard, I'm going to type 0.8 and enter, and Control A, and make sure that you apply the scale. And then we can just position that there. Okay, so that's all right. Now we could probably just change the angle a little bit here. So if I just go to main information icon, if I just rotate it, now I'm going the wrong way there, so if I just rotate it a couple of degrees, that just takes into account the angle of that face. And if we look at this letter P here, you can see it's 2 millimeters thick. So in other words, it's about 1 millimeter to the center and 1 millimeter there. So if I just move that until my circle is in line with the end face, that means that the object is sticking out by about 1 millimeter, which I think should be fine. So you just reposition it until you're happy with it. Yeah, okay. So there's the letter P. So we now need to put the letter S on the other face. So it's the same sort of procedure. Go to File and Append. just go up through the menu system to Harrington fonts. We want letter S, so it's object, so it's Harrington font S, and append that object from the library. So that object goes into the center of the screen there. Whoops, let's just go to view and top and let's select it properly. Okay, so we now need to put the S on this face over here. Well, first of all, let's scale it down. I did 0.5 and Control A and apply the scale. Now I had to do it a second time there, so I'll do it now. S 0.8 and Control A and apply the scale. So I've applied the scale on this as the same as the other one. And I need to move that across and up until it's somewhere near this face here. Now, how am I going to rotate this? Oh dear. Well, if I rotate it about the x-axis 270 degrees and then rotate it about the y 180 degrees, yeah, that's rotated it around there now, so that S is looking like it should do. And so I just need to move it towards the face now and position it. Yeah, that's okay. And I probably want to just try and rotate it very slightly. I'm not sure which axis. Yeah, 2 degrees there. I just moved the other one 2 degrees. So that's just line the face up a little bit better. Maybe do 1 more degree. Yeah, that's a bit better. And then again, if I align this dot here, the center of the object, with the face itself, that means it'll be sticking out by about 1 millimeter like the other one. Okay, so there's my bracelet with the P and the S on the end now. Now we need to join these together. Now the purists will tell you that you need to change these two to meshes and then use the Boolean function to join these together, but that's not how I'm going to do it. I am, however, going to convert the letter S to a mesh, and then if I select the letter P, I can convert that to a mesh as well. So I've got the letter P and the S as meshes. If you use the Boolean with this spiral, what was a spiral curve, you may find it doesn't work. So my preferred route is to, I've got the P highlighted. If I hold down the Shift key and highlight the S, and hold down the Shift key and highlight the bracelet, if I just go to Tools, Object Tools and join them, all those 3 objects will be merged as one now. Now I know I haven't used the Boolean there, but I always run this through Netfab, and then when I upload this to Shapeways, I find that I have no problem in getting this printed. Your slicer will probably be okay with this as well. Because of the way that the P and the S in particular have been created, your slicer shouldn't have a problem with any internal faces in this object. Certainly mine doesn't. If yours does have a problem, you can always use a Boolean modifier to join the objects together. Alright, so there's our 65mm internal diameter bracelet. It's got a hexagonal, a 6-sided cross section. It's tapered slightly at the ends, just thickened up slightly at the ends, and we've personalised it by putting the initials P and S on the end. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you.